Welcome back to Overtime with Taylor Tanner NFL Edition. And hey, we got David Newlin back. Last episode with David was pretty good, so we were like, hey, let's bring him back, why don't we? So how are you doing today, man?
I'm good. How you doing, Taylor?
Doing great. It's a great day to be an NFL fan. I said that last show, but man, it really is. I mean, tonight we got a game, Giants and Cowboys, and hey, Giants are at the top of our list today. We're talking about their defense, and man, it's been a terrible year for that Dallas D.
Yeah, I don't know how much stock you put into PFF, but going into their player grades, especially on the run defense side of things, it hasn't been looking good. And this has been the story for the Cowboys for a while now, that they can't stop the run. And it's worse this year more than ever. I mean, you look at players like Linval Joseph's been struggling. Mozzie Smith's been horrible against the run, which is odd because he was kind of that nose tackle type coming out of Michigan, but he's been really bad so far this year. What's the other guy's name? 280-pounder. He came out of Dickie Zua. Dickie Zua. Yeah, he's been bad too. So their defensive line's been horrible. I mean, you saw it against Baltimore. They were giving up huge runs left and right. So if the Giants can exploit that once again, it's going to be hard for them to win a lot of games if they're giving up this much in the run.
Yeah, you're right. Cowboys have allowed 557 rushing yards in the first 3 games of the season. That's the most since 1963. Their opponents have been the Browns, Saints, and Ravens. The Browns, they beat the Browns, all right? They allowed 17 points. So that game, you're like, hey, this Dallas team could be a really good team. You don't really know. But then when the Saints put up 44 against you, man, that's when you start questioning what do you need to fix?
Yeah, and I think what happened with the Browns is they got up kind of early. So, when you're down a couple touchdowns in the NFL, you're not going to be running the ball as much. But the Saints got up early, the Ravens got up early, and that switches the game script to where, those teams are trying to run the ball more, run the clock out, play safe. And Dallas simply can't stop. They're not built. And we saw this last year too. They're not built to come back from behind. They're at their best when they get up early, score some touchdowns, and then their defense with some ball hawks in the back end with Trevon Diggs and Deron Bland, when they can, when they're expecting pass, Micah Parsons can tee off against the tackles and stuff to, sack the quarterback. But when the game script flips and, they're the ones trying to stop the run, they haven't been able to do it. So I think they need to try to figure something out. I don't think a solution's on the roster, personally, at least for the defensive line. They might have to make a move, trade for a run-stopping defensive tackle, or pick someone up in free agency, because this can't keep on the way it is if they want to make a run in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, this Dallas team, their offense is pretty good. We're not taking anything away from their offense. Like Dak, I mean, he's not – I wouldn't call him elite yet. He showed glimpses in previous seasons that he can be elite. But right now, I wouldn't say he's an elite player. But the offense is fine. Defense is where the questions lie. And this Giants game tonight is going to be interesting because Singletary has been really good for the Giants recently.
Yeah, Singletary's been great. The run blocking has been decent enough. It's mostly been the Malik Neighbors show. I mean, I think Deron Bland and Trevon Diggs are good corners, but like I said earlier, they're more the opportunist type of corners. I don't know if they're going to be able to match up with Malik Neighbors. So I think, if the Giants want to win this game, they want to try to get up early, run the ball, get Malik Neighbors. I mean, they're not a high-flying offense or anything, but they get Neighbors involved early and get up. That's going to be tough for the Giants. That's going to be tough for the Cowboys, to come back because of their run defense. So I think this will probably be a low-scoring game. The Giants' defense has been really good, and the Cowboys' defense has been really bad. But they match up interesting because, good Cowboys offense versus good Giants defense, and bad Giants offense versus bad Cowboys defense. So we'll see how that turns out tonight.
Do you have a prediction of who's going to win?
I think the Cowboys will bounce back.
Yeah, I mean, that game against the Ravens was a tough one. They were down early. They came back and won it, though. They tried to come back. That's what it was. They were coming back late. They tried to come back. They didn't beat the Ravens, but this offense can play. The defense cannot play, though. So it's going to be an interesting matchup. I think the Cowboys got it, too, but I think it's going to be a close game. Usually these Giant Cowboys games are kind of just like runaway games. The Cowboys take off, but this Giants team, I mean, sure, they still have Daniel Jones at quarterback, and he's pretty buns, but The rest of this Giants team is pretty decent, pretty fun to watch. Singletary is a fun running back. Neighbors, of course, everyone's going to have their eyes on him. And I think it's going to be a good Thursday night game. All right, David. Now let's talk about the Carolina Panthers. We spoke about the Panthers briefly last time out, but it was about Bryce Young. Now Andy Dalton, starting quarterback for the Panthers, man. He looked really good.
Yeah, I think this is probably the last thing Bryce Young wanted to see, with Andy Dalton going out there starting. Offenses looked awful so far this year, and then Andy Dalton comes in, they hang up 35 points and smooth sailing. Same thing happened last year when he started that game against Seattle. So now the two games that Andy Dalton has started versus the 17, 18 or so that Bryce Young has started, and you're starting to see a clear difference between this offense. Because last year it happened once, small sample size, anything could happen. But now that's happening again. Maybe Bryce Young is more of an issue than we thought. You're the Panthers front office. You see, okay, our offense doesn't stink as bad as we thought it did. But now, what do you do with Bryce? I imagine they will, even if Dalton keeps playing well, they will go back to him eventually because they might not actually. Who knows? But now it's going to be even harder to trade him because I imagine this knocks down his trade value because it makes him look worse as a player. Rough week for Bryce Young and, the future of that offense. But, hey, Andy Dalton looked pretty good, He's a veteran quarterback. He knows what to do with the ball. Got Deontay Johnson involved, Adam Thielen, a big shot to the end zone. The offense just looked a lot better, looked more explosive, looks more competent. And the defense played better too. Now, I don't know how much of that is, the defense has had to win these games, and they haven't been because the offense is so bad. So maybe Andy Dalton goes out there, scores a touchdown on first drive, and defense is like, hey, we can win this game. So they're a little more pumped, and they go out there and play a little bit better. That's not Bryce Young's fault, but the team just overall looked better. I don't know what the plan is moving forward, but not a good day for Bryce Young.
Yeah, Andy Dalton, he was 26 of 37 with 319 yards and 3 touchdowns against the Raiders. The Panthers put up 36 points. That's the most points they've scored in the past 5 seasons. They haven't put up 36 in that long. It's crazy to say that out loud, but the Panthers have been pretty buns the past couple of seasons. But Dalton played really good. The Panthers finished with a total of 437 yards. They had their first 300-yard passer, 100-yard rusher, and 100-yard receiver since Week 8 of 2022. So Panthers could be back. They might be a front runner in the South now if Andy Dalton can keep doing this.
If Andy Dalton keep it up, but Andy Dalton was a good quarterback for the Bengals for a while. He was never, I'd say top half of the league starter, but he was right around that point. Some seasons he was better, but the odds that he keeps playing like that are pretty low. But, if he can keep playing at an above average level, I don't see why the Panthers can't finish around 500. The roster is not that bad. But we'll see how it goes moving forward and how they want to handle the quarterback situation.
Right, and let's stick to the NFC South. The New Orleans Saints lost a game. They looked red hot the first 2 weeks of the season, and then they just lost to the Eagles. Their offense just kind of stalled out.
Eagles defense came in with a great game plan. They were playing a lot of, five defenders on the defensive line to stop that running game, and it worked. They were playing tight to the line of scrimmage. Jalen Carter had a great game. It just I think I said this last week that the offense was pretty unsustainable, right? The pace they were hitting, and we saw that come back around this week where they weren't connecting those deep shots. Alvin Kamara's not taking a screen yard for 50 yards for a touchdown, so they had to win a little more old-fashioned way with defense, and it was a good game. They were close. They're really just 2 plays away from winning. They gave up the 2 big 60-yarders. I know it's easy to say that changes the game. If they don't give up those plays, they probably do win because the defense played great. Jalen Hurts struggled. It was a kind of a slugfest, old-fashioned. But I don't see the Saints as any less. I still think they're a great team. I kind of just, I was expecting their offense to slow down because they're not going to keep up that pace every week. But defense is good. I think the offense will have better weeks than they did this week against the Eagles. So I still think the Saints are going to be good.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great game for that Saints defense. The Saints had a shutout for 3 quarters until those 2 long touchdowns. Of course, the run by Barkley. And did you know that 65-yard touchdown run by Saquon was the longest rushing touchdown by an Eagles player since Miles Sanders in 2020?
I did not know that. I think I remember that play. Wasn't that I think that was Jalen Hurts. He pitched it to him. That was one of his first starts. It might have been against the Saints actually. I think I remember that play.
Yeah, I think it was against the Saints, funny enough. But those two deep plays that Philly had accounted for 27% of their total yardage, which is just an interesting stat. Sure, it's a nitpick stat, but it sure is interesting just to know that this Saints defense played really hard until the end. And in the NFL, it's really all about finishing games. If the Saints defense could have finished that game, if they could have stuffed Saquon in the hole that play, because that's just one of those plays. Saquon found the grass, the defense didn't hit that gap, and then the 65-yard touchdown happened.
Yeah, that's why it's important, I think, to not, overrate one game. Look at the sample size because we're really one play away from walking out of this game saying Saints are 3-0. They're title contenders. So I don't want to, I'm not trying to switch up because they lose one game. I still think they're a good team. They just lost a close one after a couple, huge plays.
Yeah,
But
it was a close game. I found another just stat, a little nitpick stat. The Eagles, out of 20 first down snaps for the Saints, the Eagles didn't let the Saints convert one of those first downs. So they really had to gain every first down they'd get. I know it is a nitpick stat, but when you have first down snaps, you look to take those first downs, make them a first down again, instead of having to go second, third, fourth down.
yeah, defense, like I said, defense played great. At the end of the year last year, the Eagles weren't playing that good on defense. Kind of like all the players were, I don't know. I don't really know what happened last year. Just everyone looked like they just got worse after the midseason point. But like I said, Jalen Carter played great. A lot of the defensive players they really stepped up. I said they did that thing with they played their linemen closer together, and I think that really helped stop the run. But yeah, Eagles defense has been pretty good so far this year. Good to see players like Jalen Carter step up after having such a high pedigree and having kind of a slower start to his career, slower start to this season.
Yeah, I mean, Eagles defense is no question. Their defense is going to be really, really good the rest of the season. But Jalen Hurts, man, he has his moments, but his turnovers, man, it's just what kills the life out of this team.
Yeah, there was that stat. I think he's had a turnover in his last 7 games. I think since some point last season, he's the most turnover worthy quarterback in the NFL. And the thing is, he doesn't need to play like that. The offense, they have a good running game, good offensive line, they have a good defense. They can win games if he just plays safe, plays like how Justin Fields is playing for the Steelers right now, not turning the ball over that much, playing like Malik Willis, but he just has some boneheaded plays. Got the Josh Allen Dumbo gene, but he's not Josh Allen as a quarterback. So he just needs to. I don't know. He's kind of always been like that though, where he has some boneheaded plays. I don't know if he's trying to do too much, but if he can just secure the ball, play safe, this team can win a lot of games.
Yeah, he has 26 giveaways in his last 21 games, and Jalen Hurts has good stats. We've seen he can throw the ball, he can run the ball, but he doesn't need to be the Superman on his team to make the big throw. Like, they got Saquon Barkley. Give him the ball. That guy has proved this season that he is one of the best running backs in the game right now. And, is it Nick Sirianni's fault? Is his scheme just kind of pressuring Hurts to do more?
Now that I do not know about. I haven't looked too deep into their scheme, but I don't think they gave him that big contract. I'm not too sure Jalen Hurts is a quarterback you win because of, like some of the elite quarterbacks, like Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow. You're winning games because they're such a good player. I think Jalen Hurts is more of a player you win with. You surround him with a bunch of talent, great offense, great defense. He can go win you a Super Bowl. We've seen them get to the Super Bowl, but I think he is sort of limited as a sort of system player, system quarterback, if you will. Not that's not a derogatory term for me. It's not a bad thing, but I think that's what he is. I think he fits in the system. And, maybe Nick Sirianni is giving him too much leeway to run the offense, but he obviously has shown in the last 2 or 3 years that he's going to make mistakes. He's going to turn the ball over. So I don't know if they need to rein him back in or not, but maybe that's something they should consider.
Yeah, it's interesting, the quarterback world. And we'll talk about another quarterback later in this show who had an awesome performance on Monday night. But let's stick to defensive talk. And, it's been a defensive-heavy show so far, but let's talk about the Seattle defense, man. They are 3-0 and have allowed 248.7 yards per game, second only to the Steelers. But they've only played the Broncos, Patriots, and the Tua-less Dolphins.
Yeah, it hasn't been a gauntlet of quarterbacks they've gone through. Bo Nix's first game as a starter, as a player even. Geno Smith and the Patriots, or excuse me, not Geno Smith, Jacoby Brissett and the Patriots, not a dynamic passing game. And then Skylar Thompson. So we'll see when they play an actual top 16 caliber quarterback.
Yeah, they play Detroit coming up this week, so that'll be a fun game to watch. We'll see if that Seattle defense can hold strong against Detroit's pretty decent offense.
Yeah, the scheme's been looking good. Their new head coach has come in, set a new culture. The defense looks great. Got Rick Woolen, a lot of great players in that defense. Boye Mafe stepped up. Byron Murphy's been good. I know he got hurt. I don't know how long he's going to be out, but they have a lot of good players in the defense. The scheme's good. The offense has been pretty good too. Geno Smith's been an efficient, consistent quarterback. So, Seattle's a good team. I could see them easily making the playoffs if they continue to play like they have been.
Yeah, for sure. This Seattle team is really, really good, really, really fun to watch. And one guy really stood out to me, Derek Hall, I think is a second-year player out of Auburn. He was electrifying at Auburn. He was always disrupting the pass. I believe he had 2 sacks in the last game. And, he's a guy who's the second-string edge rusher, second-string just linebacker type player. And he's been asked to do more since they've had a couple injuries in that position.
Yeah, he's been really good. He was, kind of a splashy player coming out of college. He got a great first step, not the bendiest player, so he's never going to be the most consistent pass rusher, but he's been good this year. Like I said, Boye Mafe has been great. For a long time, Seattle has kind of had solid edge rushers, but never had a go-to number one pass rusher. But it kind of looks like they're building that now. If Boye Mafe is turning into that, Derek Hall potentially a good number 2 or 3. Byron Murphy on the inside. They have a good defensive line. A lot of these young guys are starting to step up finally after a couple years of some not great draft picks. I can't remember who they drafted in 2019. He went like 30th overall, but never did anything. So it's good to see some of these guys step up for Seattle.
Yeah, it really is. And here's another just interesting stat. The Seahawks have held 3 consecutive opponents to 140 passing yards or fewer. The only other time in the past 30 seasons that Seattle defense has done it was when the Legion of Boom was in town.
Yeah, we'll see if they can get a new age Legion of Boom. It'd be obviously great to see, especially in this new era of defensive football. I think they got some room to go before they get there, but defense has been great this year.
Hey, Tariq Woolen is a dog. He's an awesome player to watch. I love seeing these group of 5 players out of UTSA, I believe. And he goes to the Senior Bowl, has a good Senior Bowl when he went. Then he goes in the draft, goes to Seattle, and all of a sudden he just had an electric rookie season. And then he's probably one of the best cornerbacks in football right now, huh?
Yeah, I mean, he's like 6'3". He runs a 4.43, physical monster. This is his 3rd year, I believe, correct?
Yeah, 3rd year.
Yeah, his last year wasn't as good, but it was like he's kind of picking up where he left off in his rookie year. But he's a monster, man. If he can be more consistent, be a little more consistent in coverage, yeah, he'll be one of the best corners for sure, especially with that size and athletic profile.
Yes, for sure. And let's talk about another young guy, another young rookie quarterback for the Washington Commanders, Jayden Daniels. And oh my goodness, he had a coming out party that Monday Night Football game, didn't he?
Yeah, the Cincinnati Bengals played good. They couldn't win the game, the offense played good. They couldn't win the game because of how many points Jayden Daniels and the offense is putting up. I was not the biggest Jayden Daniels fan coming out. He was pretty comfortably in my QB3 behind Drake May and Caleb Williams. But man, he's been proving me wrong. The first 2 weeks, playing safe, playing efficient, a lot of passes behind the line of scrimmage, a lot of run plays. But it was working, well, not too much against the Bengals. Or excuse me, not much against the Buccaneers. But this past week, he was terrific. Dotting him up. A couple big plays. I think he had like a 95 PFF grade, which is about as good as you can get. Just he barely missed any throws. I think he had more touchdowns than incompletions. He looked great, honestly. It's kind of a little surprising because the Commanders don't have much of surrounding cast around him.
Hey, Terry McLaurin is good. Don't dish these receivers.
No
McLaurin's
disrespect,
good.
Terry. Terry's a great wide receiver, but outside of Terry, Luke McCaffrey, these looks fine for a rookie, but the offensive line isn't great. Austin Eckler's 400 years old, slow as
Hey,
hell.
hey, Eckler had a good game. He had an
Eckler
electric
had a
kick
good game.
return. I mean,
No, he had a good game.
he is pretty slow, but hey, he had a good game. The other running back, Ryan Robinson, man, he's looking really good too.
My point is, no disrespect to the Commanders players, but coming into the year, you're not going to say, "Oh, this is a situation where Jayden Daniels is going to get elevated." No, that's not what you thought. But he's making it work. He's playing great. He had a great throw to Terry McLaurin for a touchdown. He's just been good under pressure. I don't know what else to say. He's been a lot better than I thought he was going to be, and I hope to see him continue to grow because he's probably been. I mean, I don't know if Commanders fans have been this excited since the RG3 days, really.
Yeah, RG3, he was a fun guy to watch play football. Sadly, he had all those injury histories, and sadly, he got fired from ESPN from his suspect tweets he'd put out occasionally.
Yeah, I forgot about that. I didn't really look into it. I just kind of saw it happen. I was like, okay.
Yeah, hey, he's an interesting guy, but hey, Jayden Daniels, he was clutch too. He was asked to convert 3 fourth downs, and he converted all 3 of them, 2 with his arm and 1 with his legs. And man, let me tell you something. A lot of times you see these quarterbacks who are runners, who are run first really, who once they go out the pocket, they're like, all right, we're going to run. We kind of saw this with Lamar Jackson his first couple years. He'd roll out the pocket and you knew he was going to take off. Now Lamar has developed his throwing a little bit more, but Jayden Daniels, this guy can get out the pocket and his eyes stay downfield. It kind of reminds me of, I mean, they're not really the same player, but it kind of reminds me of Aaron Rodgers when he scrambles out the pocket. He's always looking downfield, but I mean, of course, Daniels is more electric on the ground than Rodgers has ever been. But it's just interesting to see this young quarterback having that veteran IQ to, hey, if I roll out, I'm going to keep my eyes down the field, see if someone's open, because I know even if pressure's coming to me, I can probably escape it and get maybe 3-4 yards with my legs.
I mean, yeah, you want to talk about Aaron Rodgers? That was like an old school Aaron Rodgers performance. Accurate, making quick decisions, didn't make any mistakes. He's playing like a vet out there, and he's only his 3rd start. So he's got a bright future. I'd love to see him keep that momentum up as we move on into the season.
Yeah, it's crazy to see him doing this with Dan Quinn as their head coach.
Yeah, I know. He doesn't even have like some offensive mastermind. He's got a defensive coach as a head coach. So it's good to see him even despite that, and despite not having a great surrounding cast, put up these numbers and play great.
All right, well, we're nearing the end of the show, but David, I got one question to ask you. What do you have any hot takes for us here as we close the show?
I do have one, and that, given how this team has played and how their interim quarterback, if you will, has played, I don't think Justin Fields loses that job. I think when Russell Wilson's healthy, that Justin Fields is going to keep the job because he's played. He hasn't been a huge impact. He hasn't played amazing, but he's been good enough, and this is what this team needs. They're in the new defense first league we seem to be in right now. Steelers have one of the best, and Fields has been safe with the ball. He's missed a few big throws, but he's hit a couple. He's been efficient. I just don't see how you're 3-0, if they're 4-0, 5-0 by the time Russ comes back. I don't see how you hand the keys back over to Russ, especially because Russ hasn't been good in a long time. So I think Justin Fields is going to keep that job.
So are we saying Steelers to the Super Bowl? Is that the hot take?
I don't know if their offense is good enough, but I think we'll definitely make the playoffs. They could definitely win 1 or 2 games, but I think when they go against the Chiefs, the Ravens, the Bills, I don't think they will be able to win the game because their offense isn't terrific.
Hey, we'll see. That's a pretty hot take from David Newlin. You can follow him on Instagram at Newlin Scouting, and he does a little bit of music reviews at Newlin Music Reviews. He's an indie nerd.
I'm a modern day Renaissance man.
Yeah, some may say that. But anyways, thank you guys for watching. We got NFL every Thursday, college every Wednesday. We missed the college show this week. I was actually in Atlanta for a Braves game Tuesday, and it was a fun game. Atlanta got the win. That's always great to see. Hopefully Atlanta can stay out of that hurricane, man. That hurricane's coming in hot.
Yeah, stay safe, Taylor. Is that going to hit? They're going to hit Alabama?
No, I think it's just going to miss us. It's going to hit mainly the panhandle of Florida, and then it'll go into Georgia a little bit. So we'll see where that hurricane goes. It's at a Cat 2 right now. Hopefully it loses strength, but It's in the Gulf right now, so it's probably going to gain up to a Cat 3, Cat 4, but we shall see. Stay safe, everyone out there, all right? And that's it for the show. Thank you guys for watching. You've been listening to Overtime with Taylor Tanner.